Deadlock can be a super complicated and overwhelming game, especially for new players. So today I want to go through 10 things to make sure you know as a brand new Deadlock player, to make sure you're getting all the value you can in the game, to make sure you're playing the game correctly and not making any silly mistakes. Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Deadlocked. I'm excited to get into this. If you're a player with, I would say, less than 100 hours, some of these things might be relevant for you, but honestly, some of these I realized probably in the 100-hour plus mark. So stick around, maybe you'll learn something, maybe not. But if you're a brand new player, welcome. Let's get right into it. All right, the number one thing on this list I want everyone to know if you're a new player is these are not random. They might be slot machines, but they are predictable. There is a pattern and there's a way to do this a certain way to make sure you're getting the most value. And what it is, it's 4 heavy melees, and then you need to time the 5th one to get to where you punch it as all the lights are glowing. And there's a way to do this very easily, and I'll show it right here. So, like I said, 4 heavy melees. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this is going to start happening, where it's counting down. This is where you might think it's random, and those little lights glow at the end. There's actually a way to do this that I think is pretty proven, where once you're on the 3rd light bulb here, once that goes off, you want to go ahead and start a heavy melee to where you're heavy meleeing when all of the lights are lit. That will give you the additional buffs versus basically not getting anything from it. So let's take a look here. So we're going to heavy melee right here, and that's going to go off, and we get our 4 buffs there. So some other things to note about this is if you light melee whenever the bar is full, so we'll do that again. We'll heavy melee here where we get shot at by the creep there. If you light melee, you will get 1 buff. So those are the 2 ways to get buffs from Sinner Sacrifices. Hopefully that makes that a little bit more clear. It's not random. I know it's a slot machine, but there is a pattern. 4 heavy melees and then another heavy melee when there's 3 lights remaining. That should get you to where you're heavy meleeing it on the full light and getting the full buffs that you want from these Sinner Sacrifices. All right, number 2 has to do with these glowing things around the map. I think I've seen some players, I've heard some players talk about people trying to punch them in their games and they don't do anything. What are these things? They're just floating on the map with no explanation. Well, there's one here, there's one floating above the middle, and there's one floating over there, and these are indicators that mid-boss is online. So that shows you that the mid-boss here is alive and able to be killed, and that correlates also with the mid-boss sign right here. Again, these are just little rejuvenator signs, so you don't interact with them. They're one of the only things like this on the map. I will give newer players credit, they're confused. They're one of the only things like this that would glow and float that you can't interact with. Very different than like a bridge buff, for example, which you do heavy melee in order to get. So these are just indicators that mid-boss is up. You don't do anything else with these. So hopefully that clears that up a little bit more for newer players. All right, number 3 has to do with wall jumping. This is a stamina-free way to get some extra mobility in games and be able to be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more unpredictable with your movement. So in order to do this, you just jump against a wall, and then you're going to direction the other way and jump again. So for me, like I'll use the A key to jump away from it, even though I might use the kind of W and D key to get into the wall. And so I'll show you what that looks like. You jump and then jump away. As you can see on the stamina bars below my crosshair, no stamina used there, just jumping in and jumping away. This is especially great when you're in, honestly, this position in the game. Let's say you're getting pressured by in mid. They're both kind of pushing your guardian, and you just need a little bit of extra mobility. And maybe you can use a stamina to get behind this wall. Really easy way to, again, move around the map, no stamina used. So that is how you wall jump. And while we're talking about some kind of basic control functions, this is one that a lot of players that are brand new may not realize that you can do. Maybe they've been confused when they've tried to punch someone and then they've been stunned all of a sudden. And that's because there is a parry ability in Deadlock, and this is a really important one to know how to do and to understand. So if you hit the F key, I think that's standard, it will parry. Doorman's got a hilarious parry animation until he puts a door in front of him. But now, so I parry, I'm hitting F now and I cannot parry again. So there is a cooldown when you use parry and it does not get punched into. Basically on an unsuccessful parry, it's a longer cooldown. You can see right by my crosshair and stamina bars, there'll be a little red icon. That's your cooldown for parry until you can use it next. So I hit F. There you can see I'm hitting F more. Can't use it. It just kind of sits there. Then we can use it again. So use this against someone who's trying to punch you a lot. This is how you handle this. If you've punched someone and you haven't known why you've been stunned, this is why. It's because you got parried. This is a really prominent tool, especially when you're going up against heroes like Abrams or other kind of high health, in-close brawler heroes. Parrying is super, super essential, so make sure you are using that. Be cautious, though, like I said, if you use it and no one gets punched into, or if you don't get punched into, you are just kind of a sitting duck to a punchy hero, so be careful. Try and react, and try not to just spam parry whenever you panic. Look for moments where you're going to get punched. Kind of staying on the movement and tech train. So whenever you're using these things here are actually vents that allow you to be propulsed through the sky. So these are really great when you're trying to snag one of these bridge buffs, for example. So if I were to go on this standard, I would fly right over here and I would land right on the bridge buff. Really convenient, really cool. But that's not the only way to use these. There actually are several other use cases for these, and I would be looking to use these different vents across the map more often because you can actually steer your character while you're flying through the air using your side directional keys. Very similar to when we talked about wall jumping, what you might do when you go to wall jump. So I go to this and I hold the A key and I fly all the way to the left and I keep that going, and I'm able to get a ton of different movement just simply from aiming my character to the left. You can get all across the map very quickly. This is a really, really easy to use movement tech that'll make you a lot harder to follow. A lot more escapability will come under your play style from this. So again, side directional keys while you're flying through the air. It will steer your character at an angle. Physics moment, right? So be sure to use those correctly in Deadlock to have more escapability, more maneuverability as you go around the map. My number 6 tip is to queue items. So I don't know about you, but when I first started playing this game, I would get over to the shop in the middle of the lane and I would pull up the shop and I would get immediately overwhelmed. I'd be like, oh crap, what item do I buy? I had not planned for this. There's a lot to plan, so there's a lot going on. There are some players that will queue up like almost their entire build, but I would recommend at least to start using this feature a little bit with maybe some common items you would use in a build. So let's say I'm playing this Ido doorman build. Shout out Ido, he's got a great doorman. And let's say this is the kind of start he suggests. So let's say I would at least want to queue up maybe these items. To do so, you just hit B to pull up the screen that I'm on. You can do this anywhere on the map, not just at the shop. And to queue items, you just right-click the item. It'll put this over here in this queue, and then you can, I think I have it checked to auto-buy items when you're within range of a shop. You can also auto-queue these selected items at the game start. So if you play a certain hero a lot, and you want to just have these items queued right away, you can also click this to, fully preload this before you get into a game. But at the very least, I would hit B when you're going, when you're ziplining to your lane for the first time. Make sure you understand your build in that spot, and then maybe queue the first 3 or 4 items. That way you can just focus on gameplay, make sure you're doing everything you need to correctly. You can also make modifications to it. So let's say I'm out here gaming, I'm doing some stuff, and I decide, oh, I actually think I need enchanters first. You just drag it right up here, and then when you go over to the shop, you just run in front of the shop, and it would auto-buy it if I had any souls, but right now I have none. So make sure and use the queue feature for the shop. It is a massive, massive improvement, especially as you get more familiar with builds and with the shop. It can make the whole game feel way less overwhelming. Do this when you die, when you're ziplining, those kind of breaks you have in the game. Use them to queue up items in your build and make sure you understand kind of the direction of your build in general. Number 7 is box running. Now, you don't have to do this a ton when you're a newer player, but you should at least get familiar with the idea of box running and when to do it in Deadlock. So let's say you're playing in the laning phase, you're early in the game, and you've just cleared your wave, and your wave is pushing up towards the enemy's tower. Maybe they're over there somewhere, right? You can do a couple different things in this scenario. You can aggressively push the lane and try and get some guardian damage if you think you have a shot, but if the enemy's just going to defend you and you're just going to kind of sit there wasting time, why not get some extra souls in the meantime, right? So that's what these boxes are for. So you can run around, you can punch these boxes, or you can slide through them, and there's a chance, like this one, that you're going to get some souls from those boxes. Simply run over the souls and grab them. So you can do the same thing. You can slide here, as you can tell. You can also dash through these. There's multiple different ways to open these boxes. You can punch them, or you can slide. It's also the same way with these golden statues, except these golden statues will not provide souls. They will actually provide buffs. So I just got +3 spirit power from that one. Whereas, from those 2 boxes I didn't get anything. Got 58 souls from that. The amount of souls you get from the boxes increases as the game goes on, as do the buffs from the golden statues. So make sure you're not just doing this in the early game. Make sure you're box farming throughout the game. There's these great little areas all across the map. You'll start to get more and more routes as you get more familiar. Just like this one in the sewers here, where you can slide through all of these. You'll kind of start to get your own tech down, but make sure you are doing this as much as possible in Deadlock as you're rotating between lanes, as you're playing in your own lane in the early game, just to kind of kill some time, and make sure you're getting as much value as possible in every moment of Deadlock. That's a great way to make sure your souls never get too far behind. Make sure you're always doing something. All right, number 8, I think is what we're on at least, is the minimap. I just kind of want to explain quickly what you're seeing when you look at the minimap, because it can be, there's a lot of shapes, there's a lot of colors, a lot of things happening in the minimap in Deadlock. So let's take a look and kind of break down what all the symbols mean. So if you see a triangle with a line under it or without a line under it, those are jungle camps. So, for example, we're going to run over here and see this camp is a triangle with a single line through it, meaning it's kind of, I think you might call this like a tier 2 camp. You're not going to see any of the strongest creeps in this camp, but you are going to see some that are kind of mid-level health and some of the lowest health minions. The same to be said of a triangle without a line under it. This is going to be your kind of basic camp, early game camp, just with these 3 little guys in it right here, as you can see them in there. And then you're going to see squares or rectangles with circles in them. Those are the center sacrifices that we've looked at earlier. Those are the slot machines, right? The rejuve symbol in the middle of the map that my cursor is next to, that is mid-boss. And then the 2 colored icons are bridge buffs if they are online. Those are rotating quickly right now just because we're in the explore mode. Usually those will be stationary until they're consumed, then they'll go away. The larger kind of sideways squares with the roof on it and in the base are shops. As you can see, there are currently, 5 of them throughout the map, 1 in each jungle, 1 in each lane. The ones in the lanes are there until the Guardian is taken down. So the one I'm looking at right now on my screen will be there until this Guardian is taken down. At which case they'll go away. This is why in the middle or late game of Deadlock, if you've been wondering where are my shops, well, it's because there's only 2. There's one in kind of your side of the jungle, as you can see on the right side of the map, and then one on the enemy's side of the jungle, kind of in that skirmish zone in the middle of the map. The last thing is the urn. So it's that blue glowing thing that's currently on the left side of the map. This alternates which side it spawns on, and basically you go grab it on one side and you take it to the other side to turn it in. That's pretty much all of the kind of jungle and aspects of the map outside of the lanes, which the lanes are pretty self-explanatory, I feel like, where the first diamond you're seeing in lanes is the Guardian, which I'm looking at here. You can kind of see the blue diamond that I'm covering up. The diamond with the hollowed out center is the Walker. The next diamond would be the base Guardians, and then you get into the actual patron and shrines at the very, very end of the map. But that's at least somewhat of a breakdown of the minimap. This is something you should be keeping an eye on a lot during your Deadlock games, and it's just a good thing to get used to being familiar with and looking at, like I said. Next up, did you know that you get passive stats just from buying items? And they don't even say what the stats are on the items. You actually have to go to a different spot to see those stats. So I've bought Ido's kind of early game build for his doorman build. And as you can see, we have the items over here in the bottom left, as well as these bars over here on the far left. These are the passive stats I'm talking about. So on this one, you see that per the amount of souls that you invest total, you get increased weapon damage. And when you get to 3.2k, like I'm at here, you have 20% improved weapon damage. And this is just from one item. All I have on this is Cult of Sacrifice. So a lot of times this is where you see, the true value in just a 3,200 investment, because these check marks are kind of the same for each zone. So in Vitality, as you can see here, I'm at 13% increased health because I've spent 2.4k so far, and that's right at a threshold as well. And then with Spirit, I'm at 4.8k, which is just almost to the next threshold, giving me plus 25 Spirit power. So you're not going to see these on the items that you buy, but just know if you're investing heavily into weapon, vitality, or spirit, those are going to correlate with a stat, which should synergize well with the items. If you're buying a lot of green items, it's because you're a tanky character. You're going to get more health from doing that, which is a good thing. If you're buying orange items or the weapon items, that's because you're a gun carry character. So the extra weapon damage is really going to help you, very much similar to a spirit heavy character who's buying spirit items. So just want to make sure you know that you are getting passive stats as you buy items, something worth keeping in mind as you create your builds and continue to play through games of Deadlock. My 10th and final tip for new Deadlock players is to just have fun. This is a really complicated game and you can get lost in the weeds a lot of times of trying to do every single little thing right. Sometimes just have fun. Focus on enjoying yourself. That's a much better way to learn a game like this. A lot of academic studies about, if you're enjoying something, you'll learn better. So again, focus on enjoying the game, having fun, finding whatever character you just resonate with, even if it's not maybe exactly meta or ideal. Same way with builds. Don't sweat builds too much in the early game or the early learning days of Deadlock. Just focus on getting your bearings, enjoying the game. The rest will come naturally. But as always, thank you all so much for tuning into this video. Hope you appreciated the tips. If you're a brand new player, welcome to Deadlock. This is an amazing game. I think you're really going to love it. I certainly do. Be sure to check out my other videos. I've got a lot of beginner guides here on the channel. So thank you all so much for tuning in as always. And from our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked.